Stop Anti-Semitism, the organization focused on fighting anti-Semitism, is, as it does every year since I think 2019, doing the Anti-Semite of the Year. Basically, they put 10 people forward for you to vote as Anti-Semite of the Year. In the description, there is the official website where you can go vote for them. But also at the end of our show, we'll also have our own voting and we'll pick our own. So we'll try to run through all of them, which is a lot, 10 people. And some people are already saying in the chat, like, why this person and not this person? So my understanding, the way Stop Anti-Semitism does it is they also do Anti-Semite of the week. And then from those weeks, they pick 10 top 10 and they pick from them. So people are saying like Norman Finkelstein or Candace Owens or Jimmy Dore. So Candace Owens was Anti-Semite of the Year last year. So I think the way you do it is like who was the most impactful like this year, because otherwise every year it would be like Louis Farrakhan or Candace Owens or the same people, right? Because they usually get more anti-Semitic. But it's I think the idea is who was like the most impactful this year. Welcome to the reality show. Joining me today is Michael Kaufman. Michael, any quick thoughts before we go into it?
Well, we're gonna be dealing with some of the most detestable people around, and we should all just remember there's a lot of good people around that are creating value, helping human flourishing. Instead of being critics, which is so easy to do, they're actually out there changing the world and making it better. So we should all keep that in mind when we get to review some of the dregs of humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you mentioned it, people can find one of those better people at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference, where the super early bird pricing is actually ending today. So you still can get your tickets for the Irreplaceable Spark Conference 2 in Austin, Texas, next year in October. So go to objectivism.co.uk to find out more. But okay, let's get into it. So number one for the top anti-Semite of the year, Tucker Carlson, probably not a surprise. We've covered him many times. Maybe I don't even need to summarize, but I mean, just few things to point out from him. I mean, the way he talks about Zelensky, some people might forget, but Zelensky is, of course, Jewish, the president of Ukraine. He calls him sweaty and rat-like, shifty and dead-eyed. I mean, talk about anti-Semitic caricature. He oftentimes talks about the dual loyalties of Jewish Americans, because, you know, if you have an interest in Western civilization, countries like Israel, that's dual loyalty for him. He calls them traitors of America, despite the fact that Tucker Carlson is probably one of the most anti-American speakers out there. Of course, maybe you remember when he had Daryl Cooper on, so-called historian, who talked about how Churchill was actually the bad guy of World War II, and how Hitler, he didn't actually want to fight. He was forced into a war. And he actually didn't even want to commit Holocaust. He just didn't have space in his prisons. And of course, recent having Nick Fuentes on without any pushback. Nick Fuentes is, of course, very known anti-Semite, fan of Hitler, as he himself says, and also a Holocaust denier. Um, Michael, any thoughts on Tucker Carlson?
Well, a great disappointment, at least for people like me that used to watch him when he was part of Fox News, and he was really one of the most erudite and usually, except for a bit of evangelicalism, I would say, but he was generally one of the more, common sense slash uh, democratic slash constitutional based life, liberty, pursuit of happiness type of people, and he clearly went off the deep end just before he was kicked out of Fox, and he's completely continued on that downward spiral. So, honestly, if he were a medical patient of mine, honestly, I would think maybe he's got some serious psychiatric disorder, and I'm not making that up, because he definitely has thought disorders and changes that were not present, at least he did a very good job hiding them back when he was a primetime newscaster and a guy that made a lot of sense. A huge disappointment, and frankly has turned into a real bad actor in humanity. And if we followed him, life would not be better on the planet.
Yeah, and I think this is what happens when your epistemology gets really corrupted. Like it starts looking like you have some sort of psychosis. It starts looking, and that's what happens when you're completely divorced from reality. But yeah, this is number. And again, the way we cover this is going to be very brief since we have to cover all of them. But we have in the past covered most of them. So if you put in the person we are covering and Ayn Rand Center UK on YouTube, you'll be able to find our coverage. Now, here is one of the more controversial choices, at least from what I've seen. Miss Rachel. I'm not sure if you know of her. She does a children's show. I've heard of her before. And when I saw that, I was also a bit unsure because it seemed like basically what she did, she had some Gazan children on her show. She talks about how she's sad for Gazan children, which didn't seem as, as enough to basically warrant the anti-Semitic label. But then when I saw what she's posting and the fact that this is involving children, I think she is absolutely involving it. Like, yeah, worried about children in Gaza who are innocent, absolutely like good, makes sense. But spreading Hamas propaganda to fight that, no, that's not good. She oftentimes talks about, she puts the number that are from Hamas, like the idea that 15,000 children have been killed in Gaza, which is not even true. She always talks primarily about the Israeli fault, right? It's Israel should stop bombing children in Gaza, not Hamas should stop perpetrating the war, or Palestinians should stand up to Hamas and do something to stop this war. So, again, something to always remember is support for Palestinians, even broadly, is a support for killing of Jewish people. I mean, this is what Palestinians stand for. You cannot have this idea of like this like idyllic Palestinian that wants to live in democratic nation and wants capitalism, wants freedom, wants to live in peace with Israel. That person doesn't exist. When you support Palestinians, you are supporting Palestinians as they are right now, which are largely, against Israel, for violence, supportive of October 7th, and all that. So, Michael, any have you heard of Miss Rachel before, and any thoughts on
Yeah, I heard of
this?
her briefly. I mean, in passing, probably on one of the shows. The amazing thing to me is I suppose there must have been Americans who, after World War II, and our all of our dead soldiers in America killed in Europe, must have been Americans who supported Germany, but you just don't hear about them. Nobody wants to remember any American that thought Hitler was kind of right or a little bit right, or he didn't have room for the Jews in the prisons, so he cremated them. I mean that presupposes that it would be okay to put Jews in prison for doing nothing, and basically being major contributors to the German society. It's
I should just mention just slight correction on
yeah.
the prisoners. That was with the Eastern War. So the idea that he was like invading Soviet Union and he didn't have a place to put the prisoners of war, so he had
Not
to
so
kill
it was.
some of
Oh,
them.
yeah, it wasn't okay to cremate the Jews, just to kill all the Russians. Which anyway, it really it's absurd. The other point is that all this new idea that war should be that when people say we want to annihilate you, attack you, and kill you, that the response of the defending party has to be proportional. And this is new baloney. This is a completely baloney idea of protecting your own citizens. We certainly have it creeping in mostly to the left all across the um, the spectrum, but mostly on the left because the idea is that everything needs to be proportional. It's only an eye for an eye, and frankly, if somebody gouges your eye out, you're only allowed to take their eye and not kill them. Well, I happen to have a different view, and I think most normal people have a different view. Is if someone comes to take my eye out, I kill them before they get my eye, or I kill them after I get my eye. But I don't do anything proportional here. And that's the way it is with war, and that's what happens when somebody uses physical violence against you. All we're going to hear a lot about people like this, that the Israelis are terrible because they're strong. But let's remember who is saying we want to annihilate you. Death to Israel, death to America.
We have a super chat from Ilhar Risan. He says Anna Bilzerian would win if not for Tucker. Maybe you meant Anna Kasparian, which is, of course, also one of the people we will cover. There's Dan Bilzerian, which I think was the anti-Semite of the week, maybe earlier this year, or maybe it might have been last year. I think he was a bit more prominent. And Bonnie is asking, is there a poll today? So we'll post the poll once we run through all of them, so people don't vote before they get a fair hearing for all the people we are talking about today. So let's move on to Guy Christensen. This is somebody we have covered before. He's a 20-year-old who actually was 17 when October 7 happened, who went on full anti-Semitic, full pro-Hamas route. And I mean pro-Hamas. He earlier, if you remember the Jewish couple that was killed in Washington, D.C., he posted a video in support of Elias Rodriguez, the murderer of the Jewish couple. He said that's act of resistance. He continuously talks about the harvesting organs operation that Israel is supposedly doing, which is a known sort of blood libel, the fact that Israel is just like killing Palestinians and harvesting their organs. And he idealizes Yihya Sinwar. He calls him a symbol of Palestinian resistance. So again, people can look up more about him. We have covered him in the past. But Michael, general thought on Guy Christensen, or even being 17 when even October 7 happened and having this big persona coming from that.
No, it's look, anybody who supports Hamas, we need to stop pretending that it's okay. It's not okay. Hamas is interested in two things: annihilating people that disagreeing with them, and being willing to allow some converts to Islam to stay alive under their own rules later on until it suits them to annihilate those people as well. There is nothing good. There's nothing good about Hamas. Nobody who's a civilized person can point to anything that Hamas has ever done since they took over Gaza in 2006. By the way, in a so-called democratic election, and what effectively was a civil war within the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. Oh, by the way, with Israel leaving, with Israel essentially agreeing to this two-state solution that everybody thinks is somehow magically, not everybody thinks is somehow magically going to make things good. Hamas is pure evil. There's zero that they have added to the world, zero. And what happens is we've allowed people to legitimize their existence as sort of the Palestinian resistance. Resistance to what? Resistance to employment in Israel? So this I won't use the term I would usually use. This despicable person supports that group, and there's nothing else to say about it.
We have a super chat from Phil. Thank you so much. He says, Michael, is my memory correct that Israeli medics were offering free immunojabs during COVID to any Gazans? I would assume for
Absolutely,
COVID.
they were. They were during COVID. There were more people employed in real jobs in Israel. There were more Palestinians from Gaza employed in real jobs in Israel coming across the border. That's why every time the border closes, there's hysteria, because the way Palestinians were employed in actual things like mostly construction projects here in Israel. I'm speaking to you from Tel Aviv today. Than there were in Gaza. I mean, most of the people that were employed in Gaza were employed by Hamas to either build terror tunnels or to commit other atrocities, to weed out defectors and people that didn't agree, kill gays, and so on in Hamas. There weren't real jobs in Gaza. There was no real government. So that's the ridiculous background that we're dealing with here. And of course, Israel. By the way, Israel was stupid enough to operate on Sinwar, the man who organized the October 7th massacre, and take out a brain tumor and then release him from captivity because he was jailed here as a terrorist. And then we released him. I mean, we can discuss how stupid Israel was, but the notion that Israel is a country that does evil is not only not factual, but it's actually contrafactual. It's against all the facts.
Yeah, and People actually in the chat says they immunized for polio, which I think, yeah, happened weeks or months ago, where, yeah, there was a polio vaccination happening in Gaza by Israel. So, yeah, we have that as,
Attempting, by the way, attempting. There was a lot of pushback from
oh, yeah.
Hamas, just like food distribution was blocked by Hamas, because anything that Israel does that could be perceived as good would destabilizes Hamas's terror rule in Gaza.
Now let's move on. We've covered Guy Christensen. Now let's move on to Marcia Cross. Now this is the first person that I haven't seen before. She's an actress. She was in Melrose Place and Desperate Housewives. So yeah, maybe not a big fan of those, so that's why I missed her. But she has also sort of stood into prominence as an anti-Semite, where one of the things I'll just run through some of her posts. She said, "Fuck you, Israel, and all your supporters. You are the bile of universe, the rot at the core of anything decent." After the death of the Bibas children, which I should say, after we learned about the death of the Bibas children, since they die very quickly after October 7, and we've only learned that 2 years later, she said, "Try looking at the thousands of children Israel has killed, or is it just one set of the babies that matter?" Again, trying to equate Israel, fighting a proper war in Gaza, and some unfortunate people die because Hamas is unwilling to surrender and operating in the regions where children are, and comparing that to the Bibas boys who have been kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th from their home, including their mother and their father. She also said that Israel should be stopped physically. Nothing short of that will stop them. And she also, I think, and this is something that she reposted. So somebody posted this and she reposted it. It said, "This is true. Gas chambers are far more merciful than prolonged starvation. They, Israelis, do know they are lying and lying and lying." So saying that what Israel is doing in Gaza is worse than what the Nazis did to people in the death camps. Michael?
Well, perhaps an inhumane response to her would be she should have been there on October 7th on the Israeli side, and then we would see what she thought about it after she was abducted, raped, tortured, had her family killed in front of her, and then kept in captivity and raped every day for 6 months to 2 years, depending on. I mean, I wish I didn't think that about these people, but I really don't know how else to respond to them. They seem to think that if someone comes over and kills two people in your country, that you have the right to kill two people in their country. When someone says, "We wish to annihilate you, we don't want you to exist, and our entire culture is going to be dedicated to setting up a giant military structure," which is what Gaza has become or had become, in order to annihilate Israel. And then somebody like her supports this from her cushy lair in wherever she lives. These are despicable people. And one of the problems is that we actually discuss their points of view. I mean, I'm not blaming us on the show because we have to, but it does legitimize that it's a reasonable point of view because someone thinks it. Well, Hannibal Lecter had points of view that none of us, I think, would think are reasonable, but they're not that different from a typical Hamas terrorist who wants to annihilate people, torture them, rape them, kill kids, etc. And the fact that Hamas is completely responsible for everything that happened, not only after October 7th, but frankly before it, sending missiles willy-nilly into Israel against all international law only applied to Israel. It didn't exist before October 7th when Hamas was sending missiles into civilian zones in Israel. These people are just despicable. And what's amazing about them, if you actually take their philosophies and play them out, you end up with anarchy and destruction, not civilization. There's nothing about what this woman says that will lead to a better world. Israel is actually at the core of some of the best of humanity, from medicines to high tech to fintech. space tech, etc. It is remarkable. It's on the cutting edge of so many things. And it's so helpful to humanity, and it works so well with the West. It's actually the only country in the Middle East that has major educational collaborations and technological collaboration with many of the places in the West. And somehow Israel's the bad guys. And it's obviously baloney. One last point, and this applies to a lot of the folks. None of these blood libels, like the classic starvation one, have proven to be true. Zero of them. None of them. None of them stuck. None of them were true. The people in Gaza have a BMI that's higher than many third world nations. But that's a measure of your health, your overall health. It's your body mass index. But bottom line is, it's all baloney, and it's all been shown to be baloney over and over again. The fact that they have lied over and over for 2.5 years doesn't seem to bother a lot of people, including this woman. We need to run away from people like this, not listen to them.
Yeah, and I think the worst part is that these people can say something like this and still be employed or still, have people to talk to. I mean, rationally, in a more rational society, if somebody comes to and tell you, I'm a communist, and they do it with a straight face, you say you're a disgusting human being, and you walk away from them, and you never deal
Exactly.
with that person again, because he knows what that ideology actually stands for. And that should be with anything: Nazism, fascism, any dictatorial ideology, or any terrorist supporting ideology. If somebody comes to and says, I support Hamas, that person should starve to that. And I mean that by, nobody should like want to sell them food. Basically, everybody should like want to disengage with such a person unless they do something, to see the errors of the ways, to say the least. But no, this is absolutely not acceptable sort of point of view. There is like an acceptable point of view of, maybe you think some of the government money should be spent on, food banks or welfare. That's like, we accept that as like, it's still wrong. I still disagree with that, but that's like a respectable thing. But saying, what Hamas did on October 7th was okay, or that communist ideology is like an okay way to, govern a society, that those ideologies should not be respected. That's not a respectable point of view. Uh, Anything quick to add, or move on to the next one?
Well, let's just remember, in every area of human life, we seem to be okay with facts. Meaning, for instance, smoking causes lung cancer. It's a fact. You can smoke, but it causes lung cancer. So when you get lung cancer and you're a smoker, you can't be that surprised. For some reason, with human philosophy, there doesn't seem to be a holding people to any standard of actually holding them to their philosophy and the natural outcomes of the philosophy. If you're a communist and you figured out that you just tried to extract wealth out of somebody who's wealthy and they left the country and you're out of money, which is what happens, we don't seem to think that's bad for some reason. Well, they had good intentions. Well, you could be dead from lung cancer also. So I do think it might be time for some of us to understand philosophy is fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but there should be consequences to adults who have wrong philosophy, wrong as defined by outcomes incompatible with a good existence.
Now let's move on to, so this was Marcia Cross. Let's move on to Bryce Mitchell. Again, another person that maybe I've seen some clips, but I haven't seen him more. He's a 30-year-old MMA fighter who is currently competing in featherweight division in the UFC. And he sort of started getting some visibility in 2022, where he was a guest on Tucker Carlson show, where he was accusing the US politicians of treason. Of course, because they believe in the existence of the state of Israel. In recent podcast, well, earlier this year in January 25, he defended Hitler. He said Hitler was a good guy. He fought for his country. He wanted to purify it by kicking the greedy Jews out there that were destroying his country and turning them all into gays. He also said these Jews were controlling his country. There's no possible way that Nazis could have burned and cremated 6 million bodies. You're going to realize that Holocaust ain't real. He also said 9/11 was inside job done by Israel, which I didn't know it can be both an inside job and done by Israel, that is a foreign state. But I guess he believes Israel is occupying America to such an extent that it is America. So this is Bryce Mitchell, Michael, any. I mean, this is sort of like the classic stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, a great Holocaust denier. I mean, I don't know. I don't, this is like when a patient, I would have patients that would come to me and say that I've decided to go off my antihypertensive medicine because I read an article that some health food can lower my blood pressure. And I would say, look, that's your business, but your blood pressure is not controlled anymore, and you're at high risk of a stroke and a heart attack and kidney failure. I mean, there's nothing to discuss with these people. You should shun them. You should run away from them as far as you can, as Daniel said.
Yeah, I would add on that again, when it comes to again something like Holocaust denialism, like I always say, that is like an interesting sort of like a question you could have, like, how do we know all of these things? But you can find out about them. If you are interested, like, how did we get the 6 million Jews number? You can go and tell there are different organizations that work on collecting those numbers. I think like we don't have like 6 million names, but I think one of the organizations is has like over 5 million names of like specific individuals that died, because it takes work to actually find out who died. So there is like an interesting way of like learning about what has happened. But this is not like skepticism, or this is not like genuinely asking questions. This is just saying thing as a question, but it's not really a question. You're just saying what you actually believe in. And again,
If they really
yeah.
believe it, I don't think these people really believe it. I think they do it to attract idiots who will follow them, and idiots are easy to find, but it's so absurd.
Yeah, although when I see people like Owen Benjamin, or people who have been on this path even like since before October 7, or for a long time, I mean, there are genuine anti-Semites. I don't know if genuine is the right word, but there are like people who actually believe in that, and yeah, that's it's a scary thing. So this was Bryce Mitchell. Okay, guys, we're halfway there. Cynthia Nixon, number 6. She, you haven't also heard much about her, but I think she's also an actress. Some of the things that we've seen somewhere else. She, of course, called for a ceasefire in 2023, December. So just few months into the war, she already is calling for, okay, Hamas already got out. Now let's get some benefits for Hamas. Let's not let Israel defend itself. She was on The View to actually discuss that, where she desperately called and said we need a ceasefire to save innocent life. Of course, she doesn't call for dismantling of Hamas to save innocent lives, or to dismantle the ideology of Palestinians. She once showed up to an interview in Palestinian clothing, and by Palestinian I mean it was like weird, like dress where it was like a Palestinian flag, kind of tacky. Which again, that flag represents the hatred of Western civilization. It represents the killing of Jews. It represents dictatorship. That is what the Palestinian flag represents, nothing else. It's not freedom. It's not liberation. It's destruction. It's anti-Western. It's everything bad. She also oh yeah, after October 7, she said something like, I think this is really a moment for moral clarity, and I think we need to look into our hearts and ask ourselves, do Palestinian children deserve the same safety as all children do? So I really think the what about the children like destroyed Western civilization? The fact that you can say what about the children and then pretty much nationalized any economy you want, or say Israel cannot defend itself because what about the children? And again, the what about the children is always problem for Israel, not a criticism of Palestinians or or Hamas. Because to some extent, I agree. I mean, Palestinian children are the innocent ones inside of Gaza. Now we are talking about really young, not the 17-year-old ones with guns trying to kill Jews. We're talking about really small children that have no agency, have no control over their own lives. They are innocent. And all of it is on Hamas for starting this war, continuing, and on Palestinians. Again, if you are a Palestinian and you bring your child into world, if you refuse to leave Gaza because you want to fight Jews despite having children, that is on you, not on Israel for defending itself. Michael?
Well, the irony of this woman, who is an actress on Sex and the City, is she's a
Oh yeah.
lesbian, and she would be tortured and killed in Gaza. Full stop. I believe she has a trans daughter or child or a cousin. Her family is full of people that are in the LGBTQ situation, and it is remarkable to me that people that are basically advocating for their own death. So it when people do that, you cannot stay with them. You can't follow them. People that actually advocate for a philosophy that would murder them. It's like Jew hating Jews, frankly. But this is a clearly a lesbian hating lesbian, because it's the notion of gays or queers for Palestine, which is a group, is absurd, right? This is like Jews for Hitler. I mean, it's absurd. So why anybody would follow or listen to this kind of person is beyond me. But I think she should go to Gaza, just like I think, frankly, Greta should go to Gaza and stay there, hang out. Great place. You think it's such a great place? You think these are open-minded people that are just defending themselves? There's nothing to defend. Israel has no interest in Gaza, had no interest in Gaza, and it left it alone. But facts don't seem to matter. Shun these people, shun them.
We have a super chat from Phil. Thank you so much. He says, frankly, calling those who wish to hurt or victimize others animals because of an accident of birth over which they have no control is an insult to any self-respecting amoeba. Please put commas next time in your super chat, because I'm trying to find where exactly is the separation. Calling those who wish to hurt other animals because of accident. Okay, I'm really trying hard to like maybe you can repost this again, because I'm struggling to fully make sense out of it. Sorry for that. Um, but yeah, I mean, something to add about Cynthia Nixon. And yeah, you mentioned the fact that she's lesbian, and there is this concept of the pink washing, right? That Israel is simply pink washing. Respecting the rights of gay people to freely engage with other gay people. That's bad thing. That's that you're just hiding what you're actually doing. Anybody who respects individual rights, you're just faking it. So let's support Palestinians who don't support any individual rights, including gay people, and that's somehow preferable. But let's move on to Cenk Uygur. Of course, not a surprise for many people. I mean, where to even start with him? We have so many things. Again, people can look up our older videos about him. But he constantly talks about how Israel is controlling America, about that it doesn't matter if Biden or Trump wins an election because Netanyahu is still in charge. He says, everybody's corrupt, everybody's paid by AIPAC. What else do we there? This is what he said about when he was asked if Hamas or Israel is worse. He said Israel is worse than Hamas. The side that has killed 25 times the number of civilians is the good guys, and the other side is the evil terrorists. Of course, mocking it, so trying to say that Israel is the bad guy here for killing more people. He also said that people who pretend Hamas and Hezbollah are attacking Israel for no reason, obviously they are fighting the tyrannical occupation. The way you fight a tyrannical occupation is, of course, by being one, like Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and Iran are. Yeah, again, ridiculous. And sort of more recently, Cenk Uygur has been engaging in 9/11 truthism and has, I'm not sure if you've seen that, this happened only a few days ago. He's now becoming a little bit of a fan of Nick Fuentes. He's like, hey, maybe this guy can become our ally. Maybe we can use him for political power.
Look, if you ask almost everybody on the list if the U.S. should have beaten the Germans into submission, they would say probably, but I'm not really sure. Maybe we were a little bit too mean. If you asked them if we should have dropped two bombs on Japan, they would say no. They should have been allowed to continue to kill our own kids here in America, and we should have just let them continue to kill our kids because their kids are just as important as our kids, even though they attacked us in Pearl Harbor. If you ask them when Iran says death to America, do they take it at face value? They would say, no, no, that's just something they say. Death to America doesn't really mean death to America. These people hate America. That's why the 9/11, the notion that 9/11 was a bad thing for America, and by the way, for the world, um, for them it's not true. And whether they come out and say it or not, if you are anti-American, then you are happy about 9/11. And we have a growing number of people that are happy to come out and say that they were happy 9/11 happened and they wished more people got killed in it. What's remarkable to me is that we don't hold them to account. These are people that actively want to destroy our country. They're happy about it. And I'm not trying to be crazy about this. But this is why we had big problems with worrying about Islamophobia after 9/11 and not about how are we going to rid the world of militant Islamism that wants to destroy the West. And by the way, for all those people that are bleeding hearts and worry about all the poor folks, which is all the people that we're talking about tonight, when the US economy crashed after 9/11, the world's economy crashed after 9/11. And the people that got most hurt by that are the poor people that you supposedly are so worried about. So you just keep rooting for these terrorists because that's exactly the thing that will be counter to all of your other aspirational views. And I think that's really, again, for those listening, you have to listen. You have to realize that it all plays
Yeah, and what's ironic, and maybe you don't know this, Cenk Uygur's nephew Hassan Piker, a few years ago, maybe at this point, maybe even 10 years ago, Hassan Piker, of course, said America deserved 9/11. And I'm not sure if he was still working for the Young Turks at the time, but he went on the Young Turks with Cenk Uygur to like apologize for his statement. Like Cenk Uygur was like, okay, you shouldn't say that America deserved 9/11. Now I feel like Cenk Uygur might actually, agree with that sentiment. But let's go to his co-host, Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks. Let's start with I found a nice video of her that I like to play whenever we talk about her. So this was Anna Kasparian when she was talking about a Jewish CEO.
Yes, we're gonna surveil everybody. Everyone will be on their best behavior. Yeah.
I mean, isn't I don't know how more anti-Semitic can you get with your caricatures if this is the way you view Jewish individuals. Now she, of course, as Cenk Uygur talks about how America is controlled by Israelis. They're, quote, they're using our money and our bombs to slaughter innocent people and steal land. And their other media tells us Muslim world hates us for our freedom. You either love America or the country occupying it. So again, putting forward the idea of Israel occupying, which again, anybody who believes Israel is occupying America, you are anti-American. Believing that a nation of 10 million people is occupying like a nation of 330 with the biggest military, with the most powerful pretty much everything, every part of like I think is it specifically like the Air Force where like or I think the Navy where it's like the biggest Navy is American Navy and then the second biggest Navy is like American Air Force. So like that's the how far America is beyond everybody else. What else is there? One more quote. You are hated internationally, and it's not because you're Jewish. It's because you slaughter innocent people. It's because you think you're God's chosen people when you act like absolute demons. Uh, And one more, when I see Israel's flag in your profile, you immediately lose credibility. Modern day Nazis, which this is what they like to do, they like to compare Jewish people to the people that actually try to genocide all of them. That's what they always do. And when Israel defends itself in Gaza, that's of course Holocaust as well. That's genocide. Michael, any thoughts on Anna Kasparian or Bilzerian, as somebody called her earlier?
Oh, this despicable person. Nothing, again, nothing good to add to the world. Nothing. And this is the utter stupidity of it. That, like you said, I think earlier that was very well said, Daniel. The idea that Israel could something the size of Delaware could control America is number one absurd, and number two, if you really thought there was even a chance, you can look at Trump versus Biden. How did Israel control any of this? But it's all so absurd, really. The reason America supports Israel primarily, frankly, is not because we're a democracy, et cetera, et cetera. It's mainly because Israel supplies information and security information about bad actors, primarily in the Middle East, as well as foiling plots all over Western Europe. Um, and it's actually cost effective. The amount of money the US would have to spend to gather the kind of intelligence information that Israel has throughout the Middle East, including and especially on Iran, which is America's arguably number one enemy, frankly, because they're mullahs, they're crazy. You can debate North Korea, I suppose, which is also crazy and does have nuclear weapons. But we would wipe either of those two places off the map in 2 seconds with minimal damage to the U.S. Maybe to some of its interests would get in trouble, but it's very cost effective. And all you need to do is look at 9/11 and realize that all we need is one more 9/11 attack, and the amount of money we spend on Israel is a joke compared to the economic losses that we will suffer if we have another 9/11.
Now let's move on to next one. Stu Peters, who also I haven't seen much before. He's a right-wing conspiracist, also of course obsessed with the Jews, as any conspiracist is. He refers to Jewish people as the synagogue of Satan. Quote, "This is a group of people who cooked up horrific genocide porn ideas in their heads and sold them to the world, and they used it to seize control of other people's lands." He says October 7th was made up, a Jewish fantasy. He called Holocaust a fairy tale. Nobody gassed and burned millions of people. It just didn't happen. It's not even possible. And apparently was triggered with Hanukkah celebrations because it happens at the same times as Christmas Day. He said Hanukkah is fake and Judaism is satanic. So I think this is the kind of people you like. That's anti-Semite, right? This is not like a dispute. This is what he is, right? It's nothing, nothing even unique. I mean, it's the same old blood libel as ever. This guy could have opened a book from like 9th century about the way they look at the Jews, and it would be pretty much the same. Michael?
Yeah, I guess the question of I don't like to look at people's motivations because I don't think people are honest about them. And secondly, does it really matter? But I suppose there's envy at the bottom of all this. Why this fixation with the Jews? Who cares? They represent a small percent of the whole population. They're a tiny percent of the U.S. population. It's a very busy country because it's busy patenting stuff. I mean, Israel's most important claim to fame is that there's more patents per capita than anywhere else, which is all good. You don't get to patent terrorist crap. You get to patent stuff that's constructive and building and innovative. So I don't really understand what the fixation is, other than envy fundamentally, and to distract from someone's own shortcomings. Again, we need to throw these people out. They belong in the trash bin of history.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned what Israel is doing, and I remember Conan O'Brien did like a vlog series when he went to Israel, and he also went to the Palestinian territories. And he sort of tried to be neutral, which is unfortunate. But when he was in Israel, He did shows about the industry. I think there was like a mobile app for like traffic that was being developed. He did all stuff in that. And when he was in Palestinian territories, he talked to them about the old stuff, or the fact that we are being occupied. It's like, I think there is a quote, I think Raka had it maybe last time he was on, even if Jewish people didn't exist, you would still live in your parents' basement. And that is an important thing for these people to realize, that whatever they try to blame on other people, at the end of the day, it's your own thing. And no, Jews are not trying to, take away women so you have nobody to date. It's just you're not that attractive to the other gender. Let's move on to number 10, finally the last one, Kala Walsh. Now, this is somebody that I've never heard of in name, but I've heard of everything she works in. So people should, I think, know more about her. She's pretty much the leading voice of anti-Israel and anti-American movement. She is involved in Palestine Action, the organization that the sister chapter of it in the UK was banned because they continuously attacked UK bases and try to destroy UK like a government property because it's involved in Israel somehow. She's involved in BDS, the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions movement, that is calling for economic sanctions on Israel, which, by the way, oftentimes also means that Palestinians lose their job that work in those businesses. But that doesn't matter. It's a willing, it's a necessary sacrifice. To sacrifice individual Palestinians for the cause is necessary. And maybe Michael, this might be a bit closer to you. She also works for Boston Mapping Project, a website that publicly lists the name and addresses of Jewish institutions in Massachusetts, and that is the 20s Nazi Germany kind of thing starting. Michael?
She's a communist too. I believe she's a part of the American Communist Party. Of course, she's a Democrat because all good
the
communists.
Democratic Socialist, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe one more thing to throw. She also
Sure.
tweeted, "I love and support Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Hezbollah, the Islamic Republic. Even a million Al-Aqsa floods, which is October 7th, would not be sufficient punishment for the criminal Zionist American regime."
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's perfect. I mean, she supports all of the terrorist organizations. In America, that used to be a crime. If you belong to a public company, you actually have to sign that you don't support Iran and don't do business with Iran and don't do business with the proxies of Iran. But when you live in la la land of communism works and other kind of oxymorons, it's perfectly okay to have these attitudes. I don't know why anybody would follow this person. She's a failure in life. She'll always be a failure. Nothing she does is going to make this planet any better. Jews will probably get hurt or killed based on her address things. Now, there's plenty of people that are putting ICE agents' address up and their families' address up that are trying to get ICE agents killed. It is fair to say that our response as a society to people who want to cause harm to other people is ridiculously poor. And this is why we have dead Jewish people in front of the embassy in Washington. This is why we have synagogue attacks. This is why we have church attacks, et cetera, et cetera. We have repeat offenders all the time, everywhere. Most crimes are committed by repeat offenders in general, and it's not hard to do this. Now, I suppose the FBI probably is watching her and lots of other people, but it's remarkable the amount of public following they can have in this day and age when stupidity is something that is applauded. And these people thrive on stupidity, and they also thrive on lack of knowledge of history or real current events. And that's the reason all of the people we've talked about have gotten to where the kind of notoriety and following that they've gotten to is it's very easy to take somebody and listen to them if they talk about hate. It's what Hitler did to get people to follow him initially. This is it's just terrific when you don't have to actually think and learn anything about what's really going on. The rest of us, and many of us, most of us who pay taxes, have a different view of things, and we want law and order. we don't want to get up in the morning and wonder if we're going to get hurt or killed or if our family's in danger. And we don't want to have somebody put a gun to our head and tell us it's our job to take care of all the poor and destitute people in the world and to thank people for being terrorists.
We have a super chat from Jonathan. Thank you so much. Now I'm putting in the chat Google Form Docs where you can vote for you can pick up to three, so top three people you believe should win the anti-Semite of the year. And we are actually very good on time since we have about 8 minutes to discuss our own picks, and then we can read the sort of what people are voting for. So, I mean, I would just summarize when it comes to, again, the anti-Semitism. Again, Israeli-Palestinian conflict as it is right now is one of the clearest to pick a side than I think ever any conflict ever was. It's hard to, I mean, I compare it to the Allies versus Nazi Germany or Allies versus Japan. I mean, that's the kind of thing I think we are dealing with. There is one side that is trying to enslave world's population, like Nazi Germany, like Palestinians, want to kill all the Jews in the region and continue further. Iran wants to wipe out Israel and then America in that order. That's the exact thing we're dealing with. Anybody who is on the side of Palestinians, or even who is neutral, who knows about this conflict and is like, I support both sides, or I don't support either side, which is one of the polls we've covered on Friday. That's almost the same thing. I mean, if you see somebody getting attacked, like you saw that, and then you say, both of them have something right. You are evil. That is injustice being committed that you are okay with. Michael, any sort of just last thoughts about everything, and then we'll go into our picks.
No, again, I said these are the dregs of humanity. I'm sorry we have to spend time on them, but fortunately, it's topical and a very necessary discussion.
So, Michael, do you want to give your pick first, or should I start?
Well, I'll just say my top pick, and frankly, my top three is Tucker Carlson. And the reason, very simple. I think he commands one of the largest, if not the largest, following there. He can sound very erudite and very thoughtful. And it drags, it just drags a lot of people along. And as we say in finance, a fool and his money are easily parted. An idiot easily follows a terrorist. And Tucker Carlson has become quite scary and will end up with harm to people, if not death to people, because of his views and the way he's able to convince people that he's right.
Yeah, I think, well, I would pretty much have to agree. I think if the year had like 2 or 3 more months, I think Cenk Uygur definitely gets the dishonorable mention when it comes to, again, like he started to become 9/11 truther. He was increasingly more anti-Semitic. He, as I've said, like now seems to be like friendly with Nick Fuentes just because we have the same enemies. He says. I think Cenk Uygur is definitely somebody who gets a dishonorable mention. But other than that, I would absolutely agree. Tucker Carlson absolutely deserves this this award and will most likely get it. Now, somebody, and I think even Nick Fuentes himself was like, "Why am I not being nominated?" And I think somebody like Nick Fuentes, he has been a long time anti-Semite. It's not news. Nothing Nick Fuentes has done this year is something like, that goes out of its way. Again, the reason why we have like the Heritage Foundation situation with like Nick Fuentes was not because of Nick Fuentes. It was because of Tucker Carlson bringing on Nick Fuentes and sort of not challenging it. So yeah, I think this year, like last year, Candace Owens was a very clear pick. I think this year Tucker Carlson is a very clear pick. And with that, we can look to the votes. And pretty much at number 3, we have Kala Walsh. That's surprising. At number 2, we have Anna Kasparian. And actually, a tie and almost neck and neck. But Tucker Carlson wins at number 1 spot. I'm surprised so many people are more for Anna Kasparian. Maybe the visual, since she was the only visual we played.
Yeah, she was the only one you did the visual.
it's hard to
And
forget
you put
that
her
one.
on the show before, so yeah.
Yeah, but we've also covered Cenk Uygur. So, but
True,
yeah,
true.
I wouldn't be surprised if Anna Kasparian wins it as well. Well, with that, thank you for for the Stop Antisemitism. Link to that is also in the description if people wanna go check out and vote for the official website. And I think they stopped the voting and at on December 12th. So, which actually is one day before the ARCUK Christmas party. So maybe we'll celebrate whoever wins there. But Michael, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
No, thanks, Michael Kaufman, two F's in Kaufman, and I'm on LinkedIn.
And you can find me on my YouTube channel, Damn Dan. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Objective and the reality show. Until then, bye bye.